The following will contain spoilers for the Webtoon comics I'm about to say. Enjoy! Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. This is Dragon Veils, ready to go over a top 5 list. I know some of you are probably not doing much this summer considering how things are going on, and I hope you're all doing well. But putting that aside, I decided that to kill the boredom, this list may be the one for you. So after the animations for this video game one, I'm sorry, just can't remember it right now, along with Tower of God and God of High School, I decided to have this list inspired by what could possibly be on a own TV show. So I'm going over top 5 Webtoon comics that deserve their own anime or cartoon series. Loki. Now get going. Jack needs to have his pumpkins done. So anyway, I'm going to go over the top 5 Webtoon comics that I feel like are well thought out, well plotted, interesting characters, and deserve its own cartoons or anime. So here we go. Top 5 Webtoon comics that deserve their own series. Mage and Demon Queen is basically a very interesting comic to read. I've only read a few of these pages, but I'm definitely intrigued by how it's going to go. So basically, the story focuses on a young girl magician named Mallory who tries her best to be an adventurer as well as meet the Demon Queen and make her own. And not only that, but the interesting thing is that she has an admiration and respect for demons, one that seems to touch all the demon generals and try to help her in the process of reaching her goal. Much to the chagrin of the Demon Queen herself, though over time she's starting to have some form of attraction to the young, determined magician, up to the point where even her friends start to notice that. One particular general who seems to have a wonderful fascination with doing fan fiction, along with Mallory's friend who seems to have the same sort of stalking fetish, and the Lamia race. But anyway, the reason why I put this in number 5 is because it's one of those interesting romance stories as well as put into the fantasy genres. I felt like the Webtoon comic series should have a little bit more of a fantasy genre because it's not as popular as that of regular romances. Alright folks, this is a twofer for number 4, and these are some really good ones that I really think you guys should read. Anyway, Muted is the first one I want to talk about because I've read this the longest. So Muted is about a young girl named Camille Severin who is dealing with some issues of her past that she can barely remember at the beginning, and the worst part was she had to deal with her abusive aunt for a good amount of years ever since her mother died. She would always feel so alone and out of place, feeling like nothing matters in her life. And then one day, on her 21st birthday, she and her cousin do a ritual where they have to give a drop of their blood and form a contract with demons. However, something goes awry and Camille learns that her power somehow involves with plants. And of course, after a horrible accident with the fire, she has foggy memories of that incident and was basically unable to make sense of why she was able to manipulate plants in the first place. And then when she reaches safety, she encounters a fire witch named Naira and gets also help from a plant demon which she appropriately names Dendro. With these two, Camille soon begins to register some of her emotions and realize that what she wants in life isn't selfish at all. It's just her being completely human. And one of the things I like about the relationship between the three is just of how healthy it is. And I thought to put it on this list because it has an intriguing mystery and a sense of heart that you can't help but admire. So, moving on, we have this story of Lily of House of the Stars. This one was a pretty good fantasy one. I was intrigued reading it bit by bit. So in the long run, this story focuses on Lily taking on an evil queen and restoring the world after encountering a knight with taking a girl away. During this, I felt like the mystery of it and the world building of this one made me so hooked into it. I felt like it could have continued on further and developed more as the story compressed. So I put this at number 4 because I felt like it seemed to have a very promising sense and deserved a lot more love than it already has. This one is a huge fan favorite, and I would understand why. Castle Swimmer is just intriguing with its world building. Anyway, this story focuses on a young mershark named Siren who is tasked with having to kill the beacon, who is part of a prophecy, and in the process he's kind of reluctant to do so at first because, one, he has been sheltered all his life. But then he finds himself entranced by the beacon, who turns out to have the name Kappa, and wants to do everything in his power to protect him. As for Kappa, he is basically the beacon. If some of you who don't know what the beacon is, it's basically someone who has to fulfill a prophecy for all the merfolk. The problem is, he can't do it by his own free will. There's always this beam of light that keeps dragging him to places and putting him in uncomfortable situations, so he doesn't exactly have a thought of his own. To make matters worse, he always has to fulfill the expectations of everyone else but his own, which is why I like the relationship as well as the Webtoon comic itself. The world building is amazing, their relationship is just profound, as well as I do have yet to read season 2, but I do hope that this becomes a TV series because it's just great. I cannot stress this enough of how great this thing is. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are doing another twofer for number 2 on this list. And there are very strong reasons why I would do so. So the first one is The Cursed Princess Club. This story focuses on a young 15-year-old princess of a pastel kingdom named Gwen. She's kind-hearted and very crafty, and you see, the only flaw that she has is that she's just not physically appealing to the eye compared to that of her two sisters. And her two sisters are very nice and supportive, along with her older brother. Even though they all live a sheltered life by their protective father, their father finally gave in and decided to let them have a bit of a life of their own in season 2, as well as letting them meet some boys from the Plaid Palaces, or from the Plaid Kingdom. Anyway, the 3 princes from the Plaid Kingdom came to a visit, and one day when Gwen was trying to do something, she overheard Frederick, the youngest that she was supposed to be engaged to, calling her ugly, and then run into the dark woods where she soon meets the Cursed Princess Club, a group of young princesses, including one prince, all dealing with terrible curses that they were stuck with from the moment they were born, or been provided by witches and wizards due to something horrible that happened. So they help Gwen with some of the stuff that she's trying to deal with and learning to love herself. I put this in number 2 because I like of how there's a little bit of comedy in there, as well as the strong themes about self-love and just learning to be accepting of other people different from you. I also like the relationship that's developing between Gwen and Frederick. It's realistic, and I felt like the misunderstandings definitely help give a higher light of how these two are quirky, but in a way that isn't annoying. And I do hope that someday it becomes an anime. So, the other webtoon comic I put in number 2 is Soeli. Forgive me if I'm butchering the name here. It's my first time trying to pronounce this right. Anyway, this is a fantasy story that focuses on a young girl named Florette, who one day returns home to her plants after grieving the loss of her parents due to circumstances that we have yet to know about. Anyway, she encounters a strange creature that she would only heard in fairy tales by her parents, and names the prince Mint. Along the way, she encounters a world and her own mysterious power to fight off these mysterious invaders that are not only affecting the world of Soel, but also affecting her own world by slowly killing the plants. What's the connection though? That's basically the mystery that still hangs at season 1. But I feel like the way it's set up, it just is a great fantasy anime to watch. Of all the webtoon comics that are the best, I felt like this one earned the number 1 spot for various reasons. No Hate is one of the most interesting webtoon comics I've read, and I felt like this one should also have a chance to have its own series. Anyway, it starts off with a young human named Bucky, who is basically the only human who exists in a world of animals who can now walk and talk like regular people. The problem is he's caught in a whirlwind of hate and prejudice, and he is also bullied for the remainder of his life. But along the way, he also encounters animals who try to help him through his self-loathing and give him the sense of love he deserved. After the betrayal that his mother, which is a dog, did at the end of season 1, Bucky goes into an emotional spiral and has a hard time trying to figure out what he wants for himself because other people just want to do things for him and wanted to use him nothing more than a puppet. I do like his relationship with Bob, who seems to be the only one who cares about him. Anyway, this comic kind of is like Zootopia and a little bit toned down version of Beastars, if some of you have seen the anime. And I do have to admit, it does have a really nice sense of humor where it's still attractive to adults but doesn't exactly go overboard. I also appreciate the amount of heart that goes into this series. The webtoon comic definitely helps go address the situation about what it means to be yourself, what it means to be human, as well as what does it mean to be loved and accepted by others. The relationship between Bucky and Bob is a very strong and interesting dynamic. Even though they both have demons they still need to deal with, at least they're doing it together. So anyway, No Hate, in my opinion, is probably the number 1 webtoon comic that should be made into a cartoon/anime, because it is just one of those animes where we can actually enjoy it through the adult humor, as well as we can get into some of the politics and racism of this without feeling too uncomfortable whenever it is compared to the politics that are found in Beastar. So I really hope that in the future that this really does become a series worth watching. So folks, that's the last of me for a while, but stay tuned, I may have more videos coming up. Anyway, if you like what you see, please subscribe, please give your opinions, and if there's any Webtoon comics that you think deserve to have a chance to be out on television, like Tower of God, please let me know. This is Dragon Videos, signing off.